What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're back with another part of reacting to your football hot takes, the first one of the year 2025. This is very exciting, man. This is very exciting. There are a lot of things we are leaving back in 2024. This series, however, is not one of them. This series will never end. For the rest of eternity, this series will never end. You know how I know it's never gonna end? Because this series, I'm gonna leave it to my kids. It's gonna be in my will. If you're my child, you must continue to make this series for as long as you live. And then you have to leave it in your will for your kids. And their kids, and their kids, and their kids. So this series will go on for the rest of eternity. So obviously you guys have something to look forward to until the day that you die. So that's very exciting. But yeah, man, this is a fan favorite series on this channel. My favorite videos to make on this channel as well. So I cannot wait to get into this. Shout out to everybody who submitted their hot take, man. You guys mean so much to me. I appreciate you guys so much. And yeah, man, let's start off 2025 with a bang with this hot takes video. Let's get into it. The first take we have in today's video is the following. The club's obsession with Barca DNA limits their potential. Like with most things in life, I have a very strong opinion about this subject. And I believe that Barca DNA is such a tricky thing to talk about because it's one of the most polarizing topics amongst Barca fans. Very few Barca fans are on the fence when you ask them about their idea of Barca DNA. I would say most Barca fans fall into the category that if you want to play or coach for Barcelona, you have to have been born and bred in La Masia, born in Catalonia, been at Johan Cruyff's baptism, and if you ever want to be a part of Barcelona in any capacity, you have to have been, you have to bleed red and blue. Which, when you say that out loud, it kind of reminds you of that mentality that German guy had back in the 1940s, that German leader. But that's besides the point. But like I said, that's the majority of Barca fans. They believe that if you want to be a part of Barcelona, you have to have been born and bred in La Masia, and like I said, all that stuff, been at Johan Cruyff's baptism, blah 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 blah. The other camp, the one that I mostly fall into, is that I think the Barca DNA is mostly outdated at this point, and it doesn't really matter, and Barca focus too much on it, and it holds us back at times. But I would say this, because I don't think Barca DNA is all that bad. I think it's a double-edged sword. I think Barca DNA benefits Barca in a lot of ways, and it's detrimental to Barca in a lot of ways. Let me tell you guys how I think it benefits Barca, first of all. I think Barca DNA benefits Barca because at the grassroots level, at La Masia, which is what that is, obviously the grassroots of Barcelona is La Masia, it helps us massively because these kids get taught the Barca DNA from the moment they step foot in La Masia, and you see once they get to the first team, they're seamless fits. Because they've been playing that way their whole life. So nothing changes. Nothing in their play style changes because since they got to La Masia, they were taught the Barca DNA. And that's why guys like Marc Gasol and Marc Bernal and Lamine Yamal and Pau Cubarsí and Fermín López and Gavi, and even back in the day, Messi, Iniesta, Xavi, Puyol, Piqué, all these guys were seamless fits and impactful players instantly in the Barca first team because they were taught the Barca DNA from the moment they were like 6 years old. That's why, like I said, when they get to the first team, it's a seamless fit because they've been playing this way their whole life. So, like I said, at the grassroots level, at La Masia, the Barca DNA must be taught. But the way that I think it's detrimental to Barca is because I think Barca so many times get caught up on the Barca DNA thing when it comes to their managers. And so many times we miss out on good candidates because they didn't coach or manage at Barcelona previously, or they didn't coach or manage, it's the same thing. They didn't coach or play at Barcelona previously, they're not from La Masia. And we end up going with the safe choice most of the time. And I hate that. You know what I mean? Because, Xavi played the Barca. Xavi had the Barca DNA. Xavi's born and bred in La Masia. He's a Barca man. But he played the way Barca played, the way that Barca played last season was the Barca DNA, a bunch of passes. But it was some of the most boring football I've ever watched in my life watching Barca. But now this season we have Hansi Flick, who's obviously not a Barca man because obviously prior to being the coach he had no ties to Barcelona. They didn't coach at La Masia, didn't play at La Masia, didn't coach or play at Barca. But you see, up until this past month and a half, we're playing some of the most beautiful football we've ever played. And again, if Johan Cruyff saw the way that Hansi Flick plays football, he wouldn't have a heart attack because I think Johan Cruyff was a progressive guy. But that's not the way that he would play. You know what I mean? The way that Hansi Flick plays, it's not the same way that Pep played back in the late 2000s and early 2010s, which many people consider the golden age of Barcelona and the Barca DNA. So again, for me, I think that's why I was so happy, by the way, with this managerial cycle, this new appointment that we made, that they went with Hansi Flick instead of the safe choice like Rafa Marquez. Because I think a lot of times we're just going to go back to that same Barca DNA thing, and it's going to be the same old boring football, but we have 90% possession and 1,000 touches a game, but nothing really comes out of it. Like I said, because we had that last season with Xavi and it wasn't great football. So again, I think Barca DNA, I'm mostly in the camp that I think it's a little bit outdated and it's detrimental to Barca, but I do see why it's effective for Barcelona, and I do see why it's beneficial for Barca, because like I said, at the grassroots level, it helps massively in molding these young players to become the players that they eventually become once they get to the Barca first team. So like I said, I think the Barca DNA is a double-edged sword. It can benefit Barca in a lot of ways, but it's also detrimental. But I think that Barca, if they the more we get away from the whole thing of Barca DNA, the more this club will be able to progress in the future, because a lot of times, like I said, we miss out on great candidates for managers because we're looking at a guy that has to have played for Barca, knows the Barca DNA, and a lot of times that shit's stupid in my opinion. So yeah, this is a great take. I 100% I agree with it, and I think it's a great take to start off this new season or series. Yeah, this new season, this 2025 season of football hot takes. The next take we have in today's video is kind of a funny one. I'm not gonna lie. Real Madrid have no history without their Champions Leagues and wouldn't be as big of a club without them. I mean, no shit, Sherlock. Obviously, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but what the hell is this take? If Bill Gates didn't have $1 billion, he wouldn't be a billionaire. Duh. I mean, obviously, Real Madrid do have those UCLs. That's why they're such a big club, and that's why they're arguably, not even arguably, that's why they're the most popular club in the world. You know, if Wolverhampton Wanderers had 15 UCLs, I promise you, they would have a much more global fan base. Like, we can't just do this. We can't just say, okay, take away 15 UCLs, take away all the titles, take away all the legends. Real Madrid are really not a big club. I mean, obviously, if we didn't have 5 UCLs, we wouldn't be as big of a club either. This take makes no sense to me, bro. It makes no sense to me. Like, if Johnny Sins didn't have 1,000 bodies, he'd be a virgin. Yeah, obviously, but he has 1,000 bodies, so he's not a virgin. Real Madrid, if they didn't have all these UCLs, it wouldn't be a big club. Yeah, no duh, but they do have all those UCLs. So operating in this like hypothetical world to me is always so stupid because, again, what do we gain from this? They do have all those UCLs. So again, this to me is a stupid take. Obviously, if Real Madrid didn't have all those UCLs, they wouldn't be as big of a club. I mean, that's pretty obvious in my opinion. Again, I'm not trying to pick on you, but this is just a terrible take. The next take we have is CR7 will go down as the most insecure player of all time, whether his fans like it or not. It's weird, man, because Ronaldo is such a arrogant fucker, but also so insecure at the same time. And for a guy of his stature, for a guy who's made all the money in the world, who has all the accolades and all the records and everything, you wouldn't expect for him to be so insecure about something. But look, I understand where he's coming from. I really do understand where he's coming from. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. Ronaldo, any chance he gets, he takes a shot at Messi, right? But you gotta think about it. This dude has worked his whole life, man. He's worked his whole life to get to the level that he got to be one of the greatest players of all time. It takes hard work, it takes sacrifice, it takes discipline, it takes so many things to get to the level that Ronaldo has gone to. You're talking about arguably the most popular athlete in the history of the world. Ronaldo is. It takes a lot to get to that level. And for you to be at that level and still not be considered, like imagine the amount of hours and sacrifice that he's put into football. And for you to get to that level and still not be considered the greatest of all time, I would be salty too. I would be salty too. I mean, that's just me personally. But again, he shouldn't be because you're still the second best of all time, in my opinion at least. Like, being the second best at something is great. I mean, you're talking about the most popular sport in the world, a sport that's been around for hundreds of years. You're the second best ever to play a sport. The most popular sport in the world, he's the second best ever. He has the second most Ballon d'Ors ever. He has the most champions. He has not the most, but he has the most goals in UCL history. I mean, there's a lot of categories that he's first in. But when it comes to like most people think that Messi's the best of all time, and that irks him. But again, I don't like that he's so fucking insecure about it. But I understand where he's coming from. If that makes sense. I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying, but I get it. Like, if your girlfriend said to you, you know what, you're the second best guy I've ever had sex with, you'd be kind of flattered, but you'd also be like, who the fuck is number one? Like, who is this guy? Like, who is she talking about? Especially if she slept with like 1,000 dudes, you'd be like, okay, I'm second out of 1,000. Even though if you're dating somebody with 1,000, man or woman, if someone has 1,000 bodies, you need to go. I mean, there's something wrong with you. But anyway, like, if you're second out of 1,000, that's really, really good. But it's still, who's number one? Why am I not number one? What am I missing? You're gonna feel insecure about that. I hope that analogy puts it kind of more into perspective. But yeah, man, to me, I think that Ronaldo is really insecure. I think also he's very arrogant as well. I'm not saying Ronaldo sits in his room and cries about, you know, about the fact that he doesn't have the most Ballon d'Ors or he doesn't have a World Cup, because again, he has more money than most human beings will ever fucking reach in their entire life. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, and he has more, like, all the accolades and all the fame, but I do think that, you know, he's a very insecure guy at times when it comes to talking about Messi. But again, I don't think that's I kind of see where he's coming from and why he feels that way. The next take we have in today's video is Liverpool under Klopp massively underperformed. I completely disagree with this take. I don't think Liverpool under Klopp massively underperformed. Look at the teams they lost league titles to. Look at the teams they lost UCLs to. Look at the teams they lost league titles to. First of all, they lost to Man City, who have been the most dominant team in England over the past 10 years. Juggernauts. Man City, I mean, we're talking about a team that if they win this year, they're winning 4 in a row, bro. 4 in a row. Or is it 5? I don't even know. But if they win this year, they're obviously not going to win this year. But, I mean, Man City has been a juggernaut for the past 10 years since Pep got there. There's no shame in losing to Man City. And the fact that they even pushed them all the way and won a league title over them is amazing. And then when we look at the teams they lost UCLs to in 2018 and 2022, I mean, you're talking about Real Madrid and 2 very close finals, man. That final in Kiev was very close. Mohamed Salah obviously went off injured after Xherdan fucking pulled a WWE move on him in the first half. Who knows what happens if he stays in that game? But again, that final was close. And then they lost to one in Paris, 1-0 on a goal in the second half. But they played well in that final, man. Courtois just had a masterclass. And then they also won a UCL, obviously a UCL over Spurs in 2019, beating Barcelona in that comeback. I don't think Liverpool under Klopp underperformed. I think obviously they won EFL Cups, they won the FA Cup as well, if I'm not mistaken. So again, I think you have to look at the context of it. Who are they coming up against? They were losing to Man City. There's no shame in losing a league title to Man City, who have the most money in the league, who have the best manager in the league, and who have the most depth in the league in the time that obviously Klopp was there. There's no shame in losing a UCL final, 2 UCL finals to Real Madrid, who are simply the most decorated team in the history of the competition, who had Ronaldo at the time, obviously back in 2018, and then in 2021 had Karim Benzema on fucking crack and Courtois on crack. There's no shame in that. So again, to me, I don't think we should just look at the impact and the legacy that Jurgen Klopp left in Liverpool. Look at the impact. Look at the players that he signed. That to me is, I don't think you could say he underperformed, and I just think that's doing him a disservice, man. The guy was so good, arguably the greatest ever manager, and I think he took him to new heights. So for me, I don't think Klopp underperformed at all. I just think he came up against teams who were just a little bit better, and that's okay. You're not always going to be the best, but that does not mean you underperformed. The next tip we have in today's video is Messi's departure was a blessing in disguise. His exit forced Barcelona to rebuild, develop young talents, and reduce their financial dependency on one player. That's a great take, bro. And I 100% agree with this take. And most sports fans will not agree with this, but it's 100% accurate. Look at the year that Messi left, right? That was the year that Koeman obviously got fired mid-season. Barca were not winning a UCL or fucking anything that season with Messi, especially the way that Madrid played that year, obviously, when they ended up winning the treble. Was it the treble? But they obviously won the UCL and the league title that year. They also won the Super Cup. So they won a treble, but not the treble. But anyway, Barca were not going to win anything that season, even with Messi. Nothing. Coming off that great Copa America that was great, they were not going to win anything. I think it was good for Barca to get rid of Messi. Again, the way that it happened, I wasn't happy about. But Barca was going to have to move on from Messi eventually. And, you have to rip off that Band-Aid at some point, and I'm glad they did it at that point. Because, again, it forced us to look at the academy and bring in guys like Lamine Yamal and sign new players, because Barca was going to need it at some point. It was going to happen. I mean, Messi was not going to be there forever, because no player ever lasts forever at any club. So, again, in the moment, it may not have seemed like a blessing in disguise, but now looking at it in hindsight, it helped Barca kind of start this rebuild and, bring in these new players and kind of transform the club in a way. And so I agree with this. I think you're 100% right, Lamine Yamal. You should be actually getting healthy. I don't know why you're commenting on a YouTube video. Stupid ass joke. Obviously, this is not the actual Lamine Yamal. That would be insane if you ever commented on one of my videos. But, anyway, I agree with what you're saying. I think Messi leaving was a blessing in disguise, because it made Barca, it forced Barca to pivot and look at different ways to actually be successful. And we're seeing now, we're not obviously successful yet. We're not to the level that we were when Messi was at the club. But we're kind of getting back to that point and helped us discover a lot of gems in La Masia. Our next take is Xherdan is not United quality. He deserved to be booed off the pitch against Newcastle and should be sold in this transfer window. Joshua Xherdan, man. First of all, when you say that Xherdan is not United quality, I would pose this question to all of you guys watching this, okay? United fans, if there's any watching this, answer this for me in the comment section. What is United quality? What does that mean now? In 2024, again, it's not 2011 or 2010, it's 2024, or actually 2025 now, I apologize, it's 2025. What does it mean if a player's Man United quality? Because Man United have been basically terrible since Sir Alex Ferguson left. I understand they won a couple of trophies here and there. They won the Europa League with Jose. They had a couple top 3 finishes, obviously, with Ali and all those guys. But you guys are too stuck in the past. And I'm not in no way trying to disrespect the institution that is Manchester United. But the days of Sir Alex Ferguson and Cristiano Ronaldo and Ryan Giggs and David Beckham and Vidic and Ferdinand and York and I don't know, and fucking and Jaap Stam and Schmeichel and Van der Sar and Rooney and Tevez and Berbatov, those days are done, bro. They've been long gone. United is still a massive club in name, but on the pitch, this team, Joshua Xherdan was the player of the year in Serie A last season. He had a great season with Bologna under Thiago Motta. And he goes to United, and like many other talents that have gone to United, his career just completely goes to shit. I mean, this guy got booed off the pitch, man. That's embarrassing, bro. That's embarrassing for the fans in that stadium. You should not be booing a player like that. That's never okay. It's never okay to boo a player like that. Again, he was bad in that first half against Newcastle. Trust me, I watched that whole game. That was one of the worst halves I've ever seen a team play in my life. Honestly, United could have conceded 5 in that first half. They were that poor. But again, that doesn't give you the right to boo one player. It's the whole team, and it's something in the air with Man United since Sir Alex Ferguson left that doesn't allow them to actually grow as a club. And I don't know, I honestly don't know what it is, because they had David Moyes, they had Louis van Gaal, they had Jose Mourinho, they had Oli, they had Ralf Ragnick, they had Erik ten Hag, and all these guys, sometimes they start hot and they have like a good run of form, but then they always revert back to what they've always been since Sir Alex Ferguson left. So again, whether you look at Angel Di Maria or Memphis Depay or Anthony Martial or Jadon Sancho or Anthony or all these guys that came into Man United with so much promise and then ended up flopping, we keep blaming the individual, but we don't blame the actual club. What are they doing at Manchester United that is making these players so fucking shit once they get to the club? Because Xherdan has been terrible, bro, and his body language isn't great. I understand it. He's not. I'm not trying to like take away all the criticism for Xherdan because he deserves it. Okay, he has not been great. But again, man, I don't understand what this whole term about United quality means anymore, because the United that I grew up watching, there was a standard that you had to play for Man United. I mentioned all those great names. That standard is not there anymore. So Josh Xherdan is United quality because United don't have this great crop of players, man. They don't have this. They're not a good team anymore, honestly. And I know that sounds harsh. And again, I'm not trying to disrespect the institution that is Man United, because I think they're a great club, a massive club, one of the 4 biggest clubs in the world. Honestly, I still believe that, even with their bad run of form over the past decade. But United quality, it's kind of like Barca DNA. What does that mean at this point? What does that mean? To me, I don't know. I think Xherdan is United quality. Because he was a good player last year for Bologna. He was a very promising youngster. A lot of clubs wanted him. And he went to Man United. And I don't think you should be booing a player off the pitch. I don't think you should be selling him in this transfer window. I mean, you just bought the guy for what? Like, what was it, 70 million? You're going to sell him like that? No. No, sometimes there's rough patches that happen and players get through them. Rafinha, when he first got to Barca, had rough patches. But guess what? We stuck with him. Look what he is now. Like, just this whole revolving door of getting rid of players and bringing in players and signing this guy and signing that guy, it hasn't worked for the past 10 years. So just stick with something. Stick with a plan. Stick with Amorim, because the guy, yes, he's been kind of poor managed. Like, I don't think it's all on him, but his decisions haven't been the best over the past few games. But still, stick with him and see what happens in the future, man. Like, this whole revolving door and being so trigger happy, it's not helping anybody. And it's not helping these players grow and develop. So again, for me, I think that Xherdan, again, he wasn't great against Newcastle. He was booed off the pitch, but I think that booing him was terrible, and I think that saying a player's United quality or not at this point in Man United's history, it means fucking nothing. Our next take is Barcelona without Rafinha right now would struggle just like how Barca's struggling without Jamal. 100% agree. I think Rafinha is the engine for Barcelona, and he's also the leader of the team. That's why he's the captain. He's the leader of the team, and he's the engine for the team. His tenacity, his ball winning, his playmaking, everything about Rafinha this season has been so great. If he's not in the lineup, again, not just on the pitch with his play, but also for his leadership, he will be missed. Lamine Yamal is not really a leader yet because he's too young, but he's more of a watch me type of leader. Like, watch how good I am, and that's my way of leading. So again, Lamine Yamal will miss him because of his play and because he's such a creative playmaker, and he provides so many things out on the right wing. But Rafinha will miss him not just because of his play style and his playmaking and all that good stuff that he provides and his goal scoring, but also because he's the leader and the engine for the team, and that's something that Barca need. I mean, when Rafinha's on the pitch, the energy for Barcelona feels different to me, at least. So yeah, I 100% agree with this. I think both of these guys are the most crucial Barcelona players so far this season. Also, Pedri's close and Casado, but I would say these two guys are the most crucial Barca players. When they're not in the lineup, I don't have a lot of confidence that Barca can win, honestly. Our next take is Jordi Alba is a Barcelona legend. His 1-2s with Messi, a leader to the young team before his exit. In his generation, it was him or Marcelo. Jordi class. I 100% agree. I made a video about a year back at this point called Are They a Barca Legend? And Jordi Alba was in that video. He was featured in that video. And I put him as a Barca legend. I believe Jordi Alba is a Barca legend. This is a guy who won countless league titles with Barcelona, won a European Cup and was a starter for Barca in Berlin, obviously back in 2015. Had a really good UCL run that year, by the way. If you go back and look at his UCL run in 2015, Jordi Alba was fantastic. A guy who was just consistent all the time. I mean, Jordi Alba barely missed games due to injury. He was always in the lineup. After Alba left, I mean, he was signed the season that Pep left that same summer, and he was our starter for 10 years, bro. I mean, his last season he split time with Balde as a starting left back. It was mostly Balde, but he was still part of that team. He still made starts and he played significant minutes. So when you're a starter for Barcelona or an impactful player for Barcelona for 10 years, I think you could say you're a Barca legend. And again, it's not like Sergio Roberto who just came off the bench. This guy was a starter, a pivotal part of that team. And again, like you mentioned, his 1-2s with Messi were massive. I mean, that connection that they had was great to watch. So yeah, I think Barcelona, I think Jordi Alba, he's not an S-tier legend. He's not in the same room as Messi and Xavi and Iniesta and Piqué and all those guys, but he's definitely a Barca legend, I would say. He is a Barca legend because what he did for the club, the service that he provided for the club for the 10 years that he was there was massive. The only thing about Jordi Alba that would always sit with me is that crying in the locker room at Anfield, I will always resent him for that. And again, I'm not resenting him for crying because men should cry, okay? If you're a guy out there and you're crying, that's beautiful. I applaud you and I love that for you, honestly. That's amazing. Anyway, that's besides the point. If you're a dude out there and you're crying, that's fine, but don't do it in the middle of a fucking locker room, bro, because you're in the middle of a game and that's going to bring down your morale. So again, crying is fine. Don't cancel me for saying that men shouldn't cry. I'm not some Andrew Tate fanboy. I think it's fine if men cry, but in the locker room, in the middle of a UCL semifinal at Anfield, I think it fucked up the morale of the team. And he was also terrible in that game. But again, that's just one game. For the most part, he was a great servant to the club, and I think he is a Barca legend. Our next take is a great take. All-time Suarez is greater than Benzema, but 21-22 Benzema over any version of Suarez. The Barca fan in me says, this is bullshit, but the objective fan in me says, he kind of has a point. Here's what I would say. The first part of this statement is 100% true. All time, Suarez is better than Benzema. Barca fan or not, if you're like whatever team you support, you know this is true. Luis Suarez is arguably the greatest striker of all time, and his longevity was a lot better than Karim Benzema's in my opinion. Again, I'm not saying Karim Benzema was shit for his whole career because he wasn't, but Luis Suarez was just more impactful of a player for longer than Karim Benzema in my opinion. So I think all time in strikers, Suarez ranks higher. But 21-22 Benzema is one of the best seasons I've ever seen. It's one of the best seasons I've ever seen. And I think when you look at Benzema, he did something in that season that Suarez never did, which is he took over UCL games. And unfortunately for Luis Suarez, he never took over UCL games. Luis Suarez in 13-14 was amazing for Liverpool. That's to me the greatest Premier League season of all time. But did he take over UCL games? No. Luis Suarez in 15-16 for Barca, to me, arguably his best season when he won the European Golden Shoe and scored over 60 goals in all comps and was fucking unplayable. He was amazing that season. I was in awe of watching that guy play. The variety of finishes he had in his locker were insane, bro. Volleys, outside of the box, inside of the box, weak foot, everything. He was doing everything. But again, in the UCL, he was never that guy like Benzema. Karim Benzema in that 21-22 UCL, I mean, you guys know what. The PSG games, the Chelsea games, the final in Paris, he was really, really good. The games against Man City, that goal that he scored in the first second against Man City, that first goal that he scored off that pass from Mendy is a goal that I will never get over. I will never get over how he scored that goal. It's one of the most insane finishes I've ever seen. And again, in the league, he was amazing as well. So, again, it's hard because I think 15-16 Suarez was so fucking good, but 21-22 Benzema got to a level in the biggest competition in European football that Suarez never got to in an individual season. So, again, all-time Suarez is better than Benzema, but I think 21-22 Benzema might be a little bit better than any version of Suarez just because of what he did in that UCL run, which is something that Suarez was never able to accomplish. If you look at Suarez historically, not a great UCL player, and you cannot say the same thing about Karim Benzema. One of the best UCL players of all time is Karim Benzema. That's why I think he's like top 5 in goals scored all time in the competition. Suarez is not even close to that. So again, 21-22 Benzema, that level that he reached in the UCL, I might put him slightly over any individual Suarez season. But again, it's hard, man. That's really, really difficult. The next take we have is being more complete than another player does not always make that player better. For instance, Alvarez is more complete than Haaland, but Haaland's overwhelming goal-scoring ability makes him the better player. 1000%, I'm so glad somebody fucking said this, bro. I'm so glad somebody said this. Just because you're the more complete player, it does not mean you're the better player. I would rather a guy be specifically great at one thing than have a guy who's, like, I would rather have a guy who's a master of one thing than a jack of all trades. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Because this is the perfect point. Alvarez is a more complete player than Erling Haaland. He can play the 1-2s better. He's better at, I don't know, make like he could play as a 10, whatever. He's more versatile of a player than Haaland. Haaland is far and away the better player. You ask any team in world football, would you rather take Julian Alvarez or Erling Haaland? I don't care what system they play. They're taking Erling Haaland because his goal scoring ability is so massive. It's so much bigger compared to Julian Alvarez. You take that every day because goal scoring is the most important part of football. It is the most important part of football. So again, I 100% agree with this. Just because you're a more complete player, it does not mean you're a better player. At all. Ever. Again, I would rather have a guy who's a master at one thing than a jack of all trades. When it comes to the midfield, it's a little bit different because obviously midfielders are asked to do more. But especially with attackers, bro, give me a great goal-scoring number 9 as opposed to a number 9 who scores a couple goals a season, but he's great at link-up play. I don't give a fuck, bro. I don't give a shit. If you're in the box, score me some goals. And that's what Erling Haaland excels at. And also, Haaland's link-up play is really, really good as well, and his runs and his playing transition is elite. But again, I 100% agree with this take. Just because you're more complete, it does not mean you're the better player. I'm trying to think of another example. I can't really think of one right now off the top of my head. But if you have one, let me know in the comment section down below. Our next take is Modric is overrated. Not bad, but is regarded as the best midfielder ever by Madrid fans. The 2018 Ballon d'Or should have gone to Ronaldo or maybe even Griezmann. Love your bits, by the way. Michi, thank you, bro. I appreciate that last part. And also, I agree with your sentiment that Ronaldo should have won the 2018 Ballon d'Or. But I do not agree with saying that Modric is overrated. Here's what I think is the only thing that's overrated about Luka Modric is the following. His longevity. Okay, his longevity is massively overrated because Luka Modric became elite in his late 20s, early 30s, and he's now 39. Like, we can't just say, like, just because you become greater later in your career does not mean you have better longevity than a guy who was great earlier in his career. So I think his longevity is overrated a tad by Madrid fans. But Modric is not overrated. He's one of the best players in the history of the game. He's one of the best midfielders, not just of his generation, but of all time. He's one of the best. He's probably the best number 8 I've ever seen. Box-to-box midfielder, a guy who could do so many things, like who could provide a great assist on one end of the pitch and then track back and win the ball back. And, you know, he was so elite at that. I think Luka Modric is, I mean, a guy who put Croatia on the map. A guy who was pivotal for Real Madrid in those UCL campaigns that they won, especially in 21-22 and obviously 17-18. I mean, they don't win that UCL in 21-22 if it wasn't for Luka Modric coming off the bench and playing that pass to Rodrigo, obviously the Travella pass against Chelsea. I think saying Modric is overrated is just, it's not a great take, bro. Because if you watch him play, you know that he's not overrated at all. Luka Modric is not an overrated player whatsoever. Again, do I think he's better than Iniesta and Xavi? No. But again, just because I don't think he's better than those two guys does not mean he's overrated. I still think he's one of the best midfielders of all time. And I think that this guy, when it's all said and done, he's going to go down as one of the greatest players the game has ever seen. And finally, our last take, save the best for last. Salah is the better player between himself and Neymar. Talent only takes you so far. Being able to win your team trophies is what takes you to the next level. Salah has and will do that again this year. It's Messi, Ronaldo, and Salah. This has been a very discussed topic over the past couple days in football spaces, Salah or Neymar, because obviously with the season that Salah is having and with the fact that Neymar is in the Saudi League at fucking 32 and hasn't scored a club goal since February of 2023, it's trending now to say that Salah is better than Neymar. I'll say this again. Longevity, it's not just about how good you were later in your career, because Neymar was a phenom at 16 years old. Salah was not. Salah became good once he got to Liverpool, but at Roma he was decent, but wasn't this all-time great player. Fiorentina, no. Chelsea, he obviously left them. So Salah became really good once he left Liverpool, but Neymar was good from a young age. So they both have different types of longevity. Neymar started off younger, and obviously he didn't last as long as Salah, but Salah started off older. That's why he's had a more extended later half of his career. That's my first point. My second point is this. If you watch Neymar and Mohamed Salah both play, and you watch their output, because Neymar obviously has more GA and all that stuff for all you GA merchants out there. But again, the eye test, man. I love Mohamed Salah. I already talked about him earlier in this video. I think he's an amazing player. This is so tough for me because it's like I'm picking between two of my favorite players of this generation, Salah and Neymar. Watch the games, bro. Neymar, I mean, people are going to start respecting Neymar once he retires, and they're going to be on my side. They're going to be on my side because a lot of you guys think I overrate Neymar. I don't. I promise you I don't. I watched this man play for his whole career. What this guy did on the football pitch and his skill set and his creativity and his playmaking and his finishing and his IQ is second to none. It's second to none. Neymar is one of the greatest players, a top 5 player this game has ever seen. Mohamed Salah is not there for me yet. I believe Neymar is a top 5 player of all time. Yes, you heard that right. You can take your GA and shove it up your ass. You can take your UCL wins and shove it up your ass. I don't care, bro. I watched Neymar and I saw what I saw. And what I saw is one of the most talented players I've ever seen, who, again, has a trophy cabinet as well. This is a treble winner, by the way. We're talking about a treble winner here. We're not talking about some guy that just won like one league title in France. This is a treble winner we're talking about. Okay? So let's just keep that in perspective as well. It's not like Mohamed Salah laps him in trophies. We're talking about a multiple-time La Liga winner. So, again, for me, I don't agree with this sentiment at all, and I will never agree with this. I will never agree with Mohamed Salah being better than Neymar. The same way I will never agree with Eden Hazard being better than Mohamed Salah. Right? So, again, I think Salah is great, but I think that Neymar is he's a different level than Salah, in my opinion at least. And that, guys, is the end of the video. The first reacting to your football hot takes of 2025. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Shout out to everybody who submitted their hot take. It means a lot to me, man. Thank you for participating in the video. If your hot take was not featured, then don't worry about it because we're going to do multiple parts of this series. Like I said, it's going to be in my will. So my children and my children's children are going to continue this on forever. But yeah, man, I love every single one of you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace out.